Here are 5 unpopular tips when it comes to training for the Chicago Marathon. My name is Nick Savin. I'm a run coach and a personal trainer based out of Chicago, Illinois, with both in-person and online training available. And these are my 5 takes on better ways of training for the Chicago Marathon that may not always be quite as popular with everyone else. Number 1, run some of your runs on the treadmill. Yes, the treadmill, the dreaded dreadmill, as people love to say, everybody's favorite thing to hate when it comes to running. Now, here's the thing, Chicago is an amazing race. It's exciting nearly the entire way through. And as exciting as it is, it's flat. And which for some people, that's amazing. That is exactly why can be so fun. It is a great place to PR, to go fast. But when it comes to flat terrain, that means there is very little, if any, variation in the physical demands of the race itself. And in many ways, that can start to feel, for some, monotonous, can really start to challenge that mental part of the training, more so than the physical part of the training. It is a marathon, so the physical part is still hugely important. But what better way to train monotony than on the most monotonous and boring and difficult tool we have in the running world, the treadmill. Now, again, this is unpopular, but taking one run a week, maybe it's an easy run, maybe it's your long run, it could be one run a month even, depending on how often we're running and how long we're training for. But getting on the treadmill where we want to just get off is going to much more effectively, in some ways, really train that mental fortitude that we can build to be able to take into something as flat and as steady as the Chicago Marathon. Number 2, deadlift more than you're squatting. When it comes to strength training for runners, we always hear squat and lunge, single leg maybe, single leg lunges, box steps, but it's all very knee dominant. And knee dominant movements, don't get me wrong, are incredibly important for when it comes to our strength training for running, especially long distance races, or just long distance runs in general. We need to be able to have strong tissue, strong muscles around our knee joints for a variety of reasons. But when it comes to running, we're developing our power from our hips. It is our hips that move us forward. Our knees simply propel us up and down, or propel us upwards, and then when we're coming down, decelerate that movement. Now, when it comes to the run, the deceleration is very important, otherwise we'll just fall into the ground. So we do need to have strong knees for that very reason. And depending on what the race is that we're doing, if there's a lot of hill training, we need to have really strong quads. And that's the muscle top of the thigh that is going to be really important in moving and protecting the knee joint. But ultimately, no matter where we are when we're running, we want to be going forward. In Chicago, being as flat as it is very forward. And so having strong hips that can very efficiently improve our run so we are effectively moving forward throughout the entirety of the run is going to be really, really important. And a deadlift is one of the best ways to train not just the hips and that hip hinge movement, but the entire posterior chain, backside of our body. So to be able to support ourselves, hold ourselves up, and continue to move forward is very, very important, especially for something like Chicago. So continue squatting, continue lunging, but we need to take that focus off of prioritizing the squats and lunges, and we need to start building our deadlifts just a little bit more. Number 3, back-to-back long runs. And this isn't quite as unpopular. It's becoming more popular, actually, in the marathon world. It's much more popular in the ultra world. But still, the predominant way of training is having that single one long run that we build a little bit more each week, week after week. And those long runs are very important for many reasons. But I love the back-to-back long runs in general because I think it's a great way to build our fitness more effectively, to build more endurance, to be able to do more, build more volume, and bounce back faster. But something that's great about the back-to-back long runs is that psychologically we can be stronger when it comes to running on tired legs, because that first long run is still a relatively long run. And then that second one the next day, we are already a little tired when we're starting. So in some ways it can, let's say we have 10 miles one day and 16 the next, instead of just starting at mile 1 for the 10-mile run and then mile 1 again for the 16-mile run, our 16-mile run feels like maybe we're starting closer to mile 11. So as we get to 16, we might feel a little bit more like we might feel at the end of marathon without being so depleted. So it's a great way to train that mental fortitude of running with fatigue in a safer way. And why is this important for Chicago? Again, Chicago's flat. So you're going over and over and over again across the more or less same terrain the entire way through. That fatigue can sometimes build up mentally relatively quickly. And it's not super hilly, so we're not getting so physically just wrecked, but we are very aware of where that fatigue might be. So running on our back-to-back long runs is a great way to be able to get stronger at handling that fatigue so we can continue to just enjoy the entire race that Chicago really is. Number 4 is lose the GPS. Now, no, not all the time. We need to have our GPS working for most of our training because it's so important to be able to really understand just how effectively we're taking each and every training run when it comes to our pacing and the distance and being able to create a strategy and be able to tune into different levels of our fatigue and our fitness. GPS is really, really helpful. We don't want to totally forget that. But the first 5K or so of the Chicago Marathon, a lot of us are going to have issues with our GPS signal. Now, a lot of the newer devices are getting a lot better at this, depending on the satellites that they're using, how many satellites they're using, and just the quality of that GPS tracking. That's getting a lot better. And so more and more people are having fewer and fewer issues with this. But the fact of the matter is that many people, hundreds if not thousands of people, will lose their GPS signal. And losing your GPS signal, getting off on that in the beginning of the run could end up throwing off the entire rest of the race. Now, there are plenty of ways to get around this. There's manual lap on your watch, which can be very helpful. There's running with a pacer, which can be very helpful. But if we can feel confident in being able to tune into our own fitness and our own ability to pace effectively without having to rely on data, then that will improve our confidence. That will make the beginning of the race much more enjoyable. We'll become much more comfortable, so we'll settle into a routine, we'll settle into an effort and a pace much more effectively. And we don't have to simply just rely on the data. We can actually begin the race enjoying taking everything in while maybe also following a pace or also being able to confidently manually lap our watch, which if we get off on that could throw things off as well. So taking, maybe it's one run a week, maybe it's run one a month, but every so often to just see what it's like to run without that GPS signal. What pace do I think I'm at? How easy or difficult does this run feel? Being able to tune more into that is just going to make everything else when it comes to race day, again, more enjoyable, more comfortable, more confident. Now, my 5th unpopular opinion when it comes to the Chicago Marathon is my absolute favorite one, but it is take the Malort shot. Now, this could be metaphorical, but when you're running the Chicago Marathon, you will see at least one place, if not a few others, where people are handing out shots of Malort. And for those of you that don't know what Malort is, it is a Chicago liqueur that is the most horrendous aftertaste you'll ever have in any kind of alcoholic drink you'll ever drink. For me, I truly enjoy it, and I look forward to this on the Chicago course every single time. Again, taking alcohol while we're running, not always the most advisable thing to do. Depending on what our goals are and depending on our relationship and history with that, we may not want that today, which is why maybe this becomes more metaphorical. And here's what I'm getting at. When we get to the Chicago Marathon, more so than so many other events that we'll ever participate in, this is less of a race and more of a celebration. You have done the hard work. You have day in and day out committed to difficult training. Some days maybe were really enjoyable and really easy. Many days, absolutely, were not. And there was a greater part of yourself that you were striving to achieve. And when we get to the starting line, the day of the Chicago Marathon, the day of many marathons, but especially the Chicago Marathon, we are there more than anything, truly, regardless of what our goals might be, even if it's to PR, even if it's to qualify for the Boston Marathon, is to celebrate where we've come. And being able to commit to that idea when we are on the course of just celebrating with every step, with every mile, will make that experience so much greater. So maybe you don't actually take the actual Malort shot or the cinnamon whiskey that will also be passed out somewhere, or the beer shots, or the Jello shots around, I think it's like mile 24, 25 that you will see. You are still taking in the celebration of what this day is and committing to that part of this experience that millions of people will never get to experience, and you get to be part of that very, very, very elite population that gets to do this. So Maybe you don't take the molar shot. I definitely will. But you will take whatever celebration that you deserve to have the day of the race. So those are my 5 unpopular tips when it comes to training for the Chicago Marathon. I'm sure there are a lot more tips that are pretty unpopular that are also pretty effective that I'm forgetting here. So if you got one yourself, go ahead and leave it in the comments. If you enjoyed this, you thought it was somewhat at least entertaining, if not insightful, like, subscribe. Again, my name is Nick Savin. I am a marathon coach and a personal trainer based out of Chicago, Illinois. So stick around for some more tips and insight on how to make your mind and body stronger in both lifestyle and training.